Hi, it's Ms. McCautry here, and I'm going to talk to you about lasagna and multiplying fractions. Since I made this really big pan of lasagna, oh, it was so yummy, all that tomato sauce and that gooey cheese. One of my favorites. Well, anyway, I made a really big pan of lasagna last week, and I thought it would be great to talk about, like we do in math, come up with some questions for what could you ask about this pan of lasagna. I'm going to have you pause the video and then write down your questions. Great. I'm sure just like you did in class, you wrote down some questions, and I bet some of you might have questions like, Ms. McCautry, how much of that lasagna did you eat? And did you have any lasagna left over? How many people were you feeding? Well, actually, I was eating lasagna myself, so I divided it into 4 pieces, and I ate one of the 4 pieces. I had 3 of the 4 pieces left over. So there's 3/4 left over because I ate 1/4 of the pan of lasagna. I stuck it in my fridge. First I had to make some room, of course. And then the very next night my son Will came over and said, "Hey Mom, you got anything to eat?" I said, "Of course I do. Go look in the fridge and see if you can find the pan of lasagna." So we had to move some stuff around and he found it, put it on the stove and said, "Hey, Mom, there's 3/4 of a pan of lasagna here. Can I have as much as I want?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Just go ahead and divide it up." So he divided it into thirds. He divided my leftovers into 3/3. He ate one of the thirds of my leftovers. And of course he was still hungry, so he ate another third of my leftovers. So he ate 2/3 of my leftovers. My son ate 2/3 of the 3/4 that was left over of the lasagna. But how much did my son actually eat of the whole pan? You know, that really big pan of lasagna I made? Well, I divided it into fourths. I ate 1/4. Will came over and said, "Hey, there's 3/4 of the lasagna left over." So he divided the 3/4 into thirds, and then he ate 2/3. He ate 2/3 of my leftovers. So how many pieces was that he ate? He ate 6 pieces of the lasagna. How many pieces are there altogether? You got it. There are 12 pieces of lasagna altogether. So my son ate 6 out of 12 pieces of lasagna. So really 2/3 of 3/4 equals 6/12. We could change the of to the times symbol and say 2/3 times 3/4 is 6/12. And of course that 6/12 can be simplified to be 1/2. So 2/3 times 3/4 equals 1/2. He ate half the pan of lasagna. Well, then we went outside and toasted some marshmallows for dessert. Let's review what we just did. On your paper and grab your pencil, write down 2/3 times 3/4 and then make a generic rectangle. Take the 3/4 and divide one side of the rectangle into 4 pieces. Shade in 3 of the 4 to represent 3/4. Then take the 2/3, write it on the other side of the rectangle, divide that rectangle into 3 pieces, because 3 is the denominator, shade in 2 of them. The overlap is 6, so 6 out of 12 is the answer, and it can be simplified to 1/2. Let's do one more for practice. This time, write it down. Let's do 1/2 times 1/3. Of course, I want you to make another generic rectangle. Any size is fine as long as it fits. And then take the first fraction, 1/3, that's what we're starting with. 1/3, 3 is the denominator, so divide that rectangle into 3 pieces and then shade in one of them, because 1 out of 3 is 1/3. Take the second fraction, 1/2, and put it on the second dimension and divide the rectangle into 2 pieces from that side, because 2 is the denominator, and shaded one of them. 1/2 is shaded blue, 1/3 is shaded green. Can you see the overlap? You're right. It's that one piece. 1 out of 6 has an overlap where it has green and blue. So 1/6 is the answer. Now you know how to multiply fractions.